Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our beautiful show every Thursday. We call it We Farmers. As we do every day, we talk about agriculture, we talk about growth, we talk about a lot of things to do with agriculture. And with me here is my co-host, Janet Mutanda. Good afternoon, Janet.
Good afternoon. It's a bright day. We thank God for being here. And we thank God for the guests that we have with us in the studio.
With us in the studio is our expert. As usual, we've been talking about a lot of things in agriculture. We've talked about farmers, we've talked about crops, we've talked about crisis of food. Currently, Kenya is going through a lot of things. The biggest topic that we're going to talk about is agroecology. Welcome, Dr. Florence. How are you?
Fine, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
Daktari, we've been talking about agroecology with my co-host here, Mutanda, and we were wondering, this particular topic, agroecology, what does it mean? What is agroecology?
Thank you so much. Agroecology emanates from the term ecology. If I can just briefly explain what ecology means. Ecology is the relationship between plants, animals, humans, and of course the environment, and in a balanced way. And therefore, agroecology is the relationship of all those groups, that is plants, animals, human beings, and of course the environment in a balanced way, so that our agriculture therefore works out to maintain this ecosystem in a balanced manner, and therefore applying the principles of ecology and even the concepts thereof in our farming systems.
Thank you very much, Daktari. Now, agroecology in our normal life situation, how do we apply it to our local farmers?
Thank you so much. Agroecology is a new concept that was just developed between 2015 and 2018 by Food and Agriculture Organization. It emanates from the fact that our planet is undergoing several challenges, economic, food security challenges, and of course environmental. We have seen the issues and impacts of climate change, and food insecurity has become a global crisis. Now, we also have the Sustainable Development Goals 2030, which indicates that we are supposed to end hunger by 2025. Now, this cannot be attained with our normal farming practices. And so groups of nations organized by FAO came together, and they realized that we needed to change the way we carry out our farming, because the practices that we undertake currently have led to the degradation of our environment and has created a scenario where our harvests are concurrently poor. And this is leading to the crisis that we are having, the global crisis of food insecurity. Of course, the developing world is undergoing this crisis more. They're facing the problem in a greater way than our industrialized nations. And so if a solution is to be found, then we needed to change the way we do our farming, like yesterday. And so they came up with this concept of agroecology, where we are using the ecological concepts and principles to do farming in a way that sustains our environment and that ensures that we conserve our resources, so that we can be able to do farming in a manner that will ensure high productivity. And high productivity, of course, will help us to be able to partly solve the problem of food insecurity.
Thank you very much, Daktari. For our listeners, you've heard that that's a new concept that has just come up. It's going to work on animals, trees, in short, in a nutshell. She's talking about living in harmony between animals, human beings, trees, crops. Maybe, Daktari, I don't know whether you can illustrate for us somewhere in Kenya where at least you can give an example that if you want to see agroecology, you can look at this particular place. This place can be the real picture of agroecology for somebody who is not catching up with us yet.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, agroecology has principles, and the principles, its application can be done in several contexts. Actually, it's supposed to be practiced by all nations that committed themselves to it. And there are many ways of applying the concept of agroecology. Let me just give a few examples.
Yes.
For example, carrying out farming in a way that mitigates climate change. And this is a situation where then we have several practices like using improved seeds that are able to overcome the issues of climate change, like early maturing crop varieties, those varieties that are able to withstand pests and diseases. It also involves use of crops that are more resilient to climate. For example, we have those crops that can withstand drought, like we have cassava, we have potatoes, sweet potatoes,
yams.
We have yams, we have sorghum and millet, and of course finger millet. So embracing this kind of practices will be, in a way, applying the concepts of agroecology. Agroecology can also be applied in a way that we harness wildlife in our production systems. For example, using bees, having bees in our farms who will help us in pollination.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
For now, a lot of people are a bit looking at agroecology as a technical term. As we were talking with my co-host here, Janet Mutanda, somebody questioned us what a technical institute is, and that was a vulgar person. Anyway, Janet, in case you have anything that you can ask.
Yes, I would like to ask Dr. here, is there a specific niche of farmers that agroecology targets, or any farmer can participate in it? Because, you know, we have categories of farmers. We have small-scale farmers and we have large-scale farmers. Now that agroecology is a new concept in the agriculture sector, is there a specific kind of people that it's targeting?
Thank you so much, Janet. Just like I've said, that it's a concept that is being driven by Food and Agriculture Organization. The Food and Agriculture Organization launched this concept in 2019. So from 2019, it is supposed to be operational. Now, it is not directed at any specific group, but all groups. It is directed at all nations, all communities, all agroecological zones. Now, the difference is that the application method will now depend on the context. So the context, it will depend on the local context where we are talking about. It will depend on the constraints that are there within that environment. It will also depend on the opportunities that are available within that environment. But then FAO came up with a framework that will be able to guide nations in making decisions and policies to regulate agroecology. Remember that agroecology is a concept that is supposed to lead us to sustainable agriculture and food systems. So when nations embrace this concept, then they're supposed to embed it in their policies, which are then supposed to lead to actionable objectives. And these actionable objectives, of course, are supposed to emanate from the grassroots. But it's a bottom-up approach where whatever is workable in a specific context then should be promoted there. And FAO came up with 10 elements that are supposed to be considered in any context where the term or the agroecological concept is supposed to be applied. Yes.
Thank you very much, our listeners outside there. We were talking about how we can intensify the improved technology so that our farmers can at least get a lot of yields. Perhaps, Daktari, if we apply what the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya recently talked about, going back to the shamba system and going to cultivate within the forest, how is that related to agroecology?
All right, thank you so much. Before I answer the statement of the, talk about the statement of the Deputy President,
yes,
let me just come from this background that the 10 elements that FAO came up with are supposed to be incorporated in all actions that are being practiced in every community and every environment to be able to make use of agroecology. We have diversity, we have recycling, we have resilience, we have synergy, we have co-creation and knowledge creation, we have circular economy, and of course traditional values, culture and social values. Now, whichever practices that we carry out in our agriculture, in our farms, are supposed to ensure that we incorporate an aspect of all these 10 elements. Now, if I'm supposed to come to the question that you've just asked me about the DP, I would say that that statement may not be in line with the agroecology concept, because we are supposed to protect our natural resources and ensure that our plants, our animals, human beings, and of course the environment, and you know the environment is made up of so many other concepts. We have air, we have microorganisms, we have issues of pollution, issues of ability of the environment to be able to attract rainfall and things like that. And so if we go ahead and destroy our forests, we will be impacting on our environment in a big way. Our trees will be brought down. Therefore, we will be encouraging issues of desertification, soil erosion. We will therefore create a situation where our soils are degraded as a result of soil erosion. As we go there, as farmers go there again with their unsustainable practices, they will continue to degrade the soil and of course the environment. So my advice will be to conserve forests as much as possible and increase actually the forest cover, but intensify production in the farming areas that we already have, so that we have an environment that is sustained, that can be able to enable us or stir us up to increase our food production, and therefore to be able to promote our food security now and even in generations to come. Remember, we are just not living for today. This planet belongs also to our children and our children's children. And the actions we take today are going to affect the kind of planet we have tomorrow. So any activity that can destroy the planet, like felling down of trees, should be discouraged as much as possible. Any practices that increase carbon emission should be discouraged as much as possible. Remember, our trees help us to regulate the amount of carbon in the environment. And when we remove them, then we are continuing to increase the amount of carbon in the environment. And these are the issues that are causing global warming and, of course, intensifying climate change.
Thank you very much. Perhaps to those who are warming up to go and grab the forest, you have the point well driven at home. Perhaps Janet.
Yes. As you're explaining,
yes,
there's a factor that right now all farmers are considering, the economical factor.
Yes.
For a farmer to consider this new innovative idea that you're coming up with, they have to consider the financial aspect of it. So what do you say, comparing the conventional way of farming and this new technology that you're coming up with, for a farmer to maybe adapt this new thing that you're coming up with, they have to know the financial implication it will have on them. So what are the financial implications of agroecology?
Thank you so much, Janet. I want to say that this concept has not left out any aspect of life and livelihoods out. If you look at the elements that I've mentioned, we have issues of economy. And remember that the agroecology concept, it is intended to bring sustainability to several objectives. We have objectives on economical objectives, environmental, social, health, nutritional, and several others. So it's a situation that looks at the scenario where the farmer is and then tries to maximize as much as possible the potential that is available. So farmers, they may be able to make transitions towards agroecology. It may require certain resources for the time being. But in the end result, they are going to benefit more as a result of embracing these practices. So I will encourage farmers not to fear, but to transit. They may need a little bit more resources to do the transitions. But eventually, it will work for the good of the farmer and for the good of all of us and for the good of our planet.
Okay.
Thank you.
Now we consider what are the advantages and the disadvantages of agro?
Agroecology has several advantages, just like I've mentioned, that it is geared towards bringing sustainability on objectives like economical issues, environmental issues, health issues, nutritional issues, governance issues. Now, if all these issues are made to be sustainable, then they work towards sustaining our agriculture and food systems. And the outcome of a sustainable food system means that we have adequate amounts of food, and that the activities within the food system are inclusive of all the players. It includes everybody and brings sustainable outcomes to all the players, so that every person has a choice of what kind of food they eat and where they want to get their food from. So it gives it opens up choices for all the people who are involved, and several benefits.
Okay, Daktari, and what would you say, how has our government embraced this new idea? Our
government has embraced this idea, and I think and has tried to bring in certain reforms to bring about transitions. I know there are lots of advocacy on issues of agroecology, lots of capacity building. I told you is a new concept, so it requires a lot of capacity building on many stakeholders, those who are in extension, the farmers themselves, and every other actor in the food system. And the government has created platforms for capacity building. The government, though, needs to make it a little more strengthened within its policies, so that as actions are being taken, then the policy will be able to drive actions, and therefore we will achieve greater success.
Thank you very much. We are really privileged to be with our expert, Dr. Florence, who is with us here. Because of our time, perhaps I'll take the last question before we leave this particular desk for some other people for News at 1. Perhaps, Daktari, if you have anything that you can say to those local farmers listening to us at RUFM right now, what is the most important thing that you can tell them?
Thank you so much. I would want to encourage our farmers to continue with the good work they are doing of ensuring food security for the entire population. But I want to remind our farmers that we need to transition, to change the way we do our farming and embrace this new principles and new concepts so that we can be able to farm in a way that we will continue farming for a long time and ensure that our efforts in farming become productive to us. I know a lot of times we do farming and we don't get as much harvest as we expected, and therefore we don't get as much profit or income from our farming. But when we change the way we do things, then we are going to be able to increase our productivity, our yields, and our yields will promote our food security, and of course we'll have something to put in our pockets because we have excess to sell. I would want to encourage farmers, embrace diversity. Ensure you plant many types of crops in your farm as possible, and also have livestock so that you have a diversified crop and animal farming system. Also, try to use crop varieties which are resilient. Let's conserve our resources. Let's conserve our water. We don't have a lot of water in this country. And so let's try as much as possible to conserve our water through recycling as well as through water harvest. And we can do our own in-farm irrigation as we wait for the government to bring in the infrastructure needed, but we can still do something on our own. So I want to encourage farmers, let's do pick up the correct practices that are going to enable us to increase our yields.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, our listeners. We were very much happy being with you here. We were with our expert, Dr. Florence, and my co-host, Janet Mutanda. Big technologies synthesized to the simplest means for big and small farmers to use them keenly for us to see that we have the cool agriculture, the right one for us to use, for us to have a lot of food and to remain healthy and let our soil be healthier and healthier forever. My name is Wycliffe Onyango Owino. Till next time, bye.